I'm Konstantin, and I'm the one who is responsible for the learning materials that you were using during this training, and for the practice exercise that you were performing on our laboratory. If you have any questions about this part of my responsibilities, you're welcome to ask them, and I will try and answer. And I also was told that many of you were interested in learning more about the subsystem library, which is the subject I want to shed some light today. I will show you everything that is accessible for you in terms of information about standard subsystems library. And the topic is very big. There are a lot to learn about this quite awesome tool, and there is no way we can cover any significant part of it during 1 hour that we have. But I will do my best to show you where you can find all the information. Let's start with learning about what the standard subsystem library is, and what it is for, and how you can use it in your projects, how it can be helpful for your everyday developer's life. The idea behind the subsystem library is that there are some pieces of functionality that are used very often. For example, as you know, when you build an application, almost always need to create some form of user list inside of your application. Next to the user list that exists in the platform user list, you usually want to have your own additional list that contains information like contact numbers, like email, phone number, and so on, gender, maybe a postal address and stuff like that. And whatever system you're developing, you're most probably will be implementing this piece of functionality. So it makes perfect sense to have it already implemented somewhere, so you can take it from there, put into your application, merge into your source code, and just use it. And this is what subsystem library is for. And the important thing to understand about the subsystem library is that each subsystem there represents one piece of functionality. And all subsystems you want to use, you need to merge into your application. So they need to sit inside of your application together with all other metadata objects that you have created. So you need somehow combine the subsystems that you use with your application. And now let's see where we can find the information about the subsystem library. I'm at support.1ci.com. This is our main knowledge base about everything you need to know when you implement one's enterprise applications. And here we have guides link, which I click, and here are all like official manuals and documentation about different tools, ONCE Enterprise, administrative tools, and here is the standard subsystem library integration guide. So, and this is your main source of information about what's inside of the subsystem library and how you can take the piece of functionality that you need and start using it in your application. Basically, there are three main scenarios when it comes to using 1C, the standard subsystem library. So first of all, if you're just starting to implement the application from scratch, so this is a new project and there is no already existing application, this is something new. It makes perfect sense to start from the subsystem library already installed inside of your application. Before you start developing, you need to collect the functional requirements. And from these requirements, you already know what pieces of functionality you're going to need in your application. So you pick them from the subsystem library, you pick the subsystems that you will need, and you make an application out of those subsystems. And then you start working on top of it, building your functionality on top of already existing library that is in your application already. Second common scenario is when you start from application that already exists. For example, you take 1C Drive or ERP application, one of the 1C applications. And in this case, you already have the standard subsystem library inside of these applications. So all you need is already there, and you can use it along with other functionality that build on top of it. So it's already on your disposal, and you just work from here. This is probably the easiest way to start using all these functionality. Now let's look at what's inside of the subsystem library. So there are literally dozens of different subsystems in there, and they are broken down into several functional areas. For example, the first functional area is administration and maintenance tools. Here you can see event log analysis, additional reports and data processors, application settings, duplicate object deletion, schedule jobs, infobase backup. So everything generally belonging to the administration of your application lives here. So the next area is users and access rights administration. Everything that is somehow connected to your users list. What access rights do they have? What you do when you need, for example, to get rid of all the users, just make them leave the application because you want to update it or for any other reason. So all of these lives here, and so on and so forth. I won't be listing all of them, but you're welcome to follow this link and see for yourself what's here. Let's just quickly scroll and name the most interesting parts. For example, master data and classifiers. There are banks. So how you connect to the bank, to the payment system. There are currencies. How do you deal with a multi-currency application? For example, conversion rates and stuff like that. For example, this is an interesting one, user reminders. So how do you implement the reminding of different tasks that assign to different users? This is how it's already implemented. You just take it and you start using it. Now to the integration guide. So how do you take the subsystem library and embed it into your application? It can be quite complex task. So let's spend a little more time here. So there are two kinds of issues that you can encounter when you try to merge a subsystem library into your application. The first issue is that subsystems inside of the library often interdependent. So they depend on one subsystem can depend on other subsystems. It's kind of a network of interdependencies that you need to take into account. So, for example, you want to use a user subsystem because you need its functionality. But in order for you to be able to use it, you also need 3 or 4 other subsystems because user subsystem depends on them. So you need them as well. And this document contains the list of all those dependencies. For example, user subsystem depends on the contact information subsystem, or Infobase version update depends on closing user session, and so on and so forth. So you need to be careful about those dependencies. And as you can see, there are a lot of them. So please check those dependencies and merge all subsystems that depend on each other together. So this is the first issue that you will face if you merge the subsystem library into your application, or even if you start from scratch from the empty application, you still need to remember about those dependencies. And you still need to know that you cannot, for example, use user subsystem without all subsystem it depends on. And the second issue is that if you already have something implemented in your application and you start merging the subsystems into it, you need to remember that you're changing the application as a whole. Subsystems that you're merging are not sitting on the side they are inside of your application. And what it means is that you can have naming conflicts of names, because you, for example, you already created the catalogs or documents that have the same names that catalogs and documents in the subsystem library, and there will be a conflict. So this merge won't be successful. This is why it's always better to start with the subsystem library and then build your functionality on top of it, not the other way around, not build your functionality and then starting to implement the subsystem library. But even if you have this issue and you still need to use the subsystem, there is a way of overcoming this issue. And the only reasonable approach is to rename. If you have naming collision, the only reasonable approach is to rename your objects, so the one that you created. Just change their names, because you know what's where, you won't miss anything. And Platform will help you when you rename an object. It shows all places where this name is used and offers you suggests to rename them. So it's not that difficult. And please don't try to rename subsystem library objects, because this might cause many difficulties. It's not impossible, but it will be much harder. So rename your objects. To avoid these problems, please try to start a new application from the subsystem library. First, just install the subsystem library into your application and then start building on top of it. This way it will be much easier. We started from the subsystem library, and we took into account all interdependencies between different libraries. So we selected all subsystems that we need, and then all subsystems that depend on those subsystems that we need. And now all subsystems are inside of our application. What we do next? Next thing we need to do is configuring those subsystems that we have inside of our application. Because even after the subsystem is already inside of your application, it still might, in some cases, need additional actions from your side to work properly. For example, if you use this subsystem, you need to copy a piece of code and paste it into some specific module. Or, for example, you might need to replace this handler that lives somewhere with the one that is in the standard subsystem. So these kind of settings. Or you might need to do other settings. So please take this into account and pay attention to this list when you use any subsystems from the library. As you can see, there is a lot to do, but there is always a workaround. And this workaround is that you just take the standard subsystem library, install it, and use the entire subsystem library as a base for your application. This way, it will be already set up. All configuration actions will be already performed. It will work. You can just run it, and it will run as an application. You will see all the interfaces included into all the subsystems. And this will be the basis on which you start building your application. If we have the application and we want to merge only some subsystems. So if we are picky, if we don't want to use all of them, and we pick only some of them, we need to take into account the dependencies. Mm-hmm. And after we merged only parts of the library, we need to make all configuration changes. But if you take the entire library and use it as a basis for our application, we don't need to do anything because it's functional. If you take the entire library and use it as a starting point of our application, then it's already set up. We don't need to do anything. And this is the most important information. And now let's see where you can get how to download the subsystem library. This is how. You need to go to onecdn.com and you need to have an account there. So you will need to sign up and create an account. And after you have an account and you log into it, the site will ask you to provide a one-time code. It's a two-factor authentication, that kind of unusual way they use it. And the way it works, you need to download an application on your mobile device. It's called Bittrex OTP. And this application provides you with codes that you then feed into the site. And here we have developer tools, and this is subsystem library. And this is how you can download and install it. There are links to download it. And the way you will receive it is just the archive with the CF configuration file inside. So you can just immediately load this file into your application or merge your application with this file. It's just a CF file. So the executable that you see in the download is just a setup application. So you click it, it's set up exe, and you click it, it unrolls, unpacks the archives and creates the CF file and DT file for demo version of this. It's like an installer that you download first and then you run it. So this is what the subsystem library looks when you just take the CF file, upload it into your application, and this is what you get. So this is the entire library uploaded into the application with everything that's inside. The easiest way to start your application because it's already working, it's already set up, it has all it needs. You just start from here and you build your functionality on top of it. And are all subsystems that are included into the library, and you can just click and see what's inside. Inventory, bank, standard subsystems, performance monitor, stuff like that. So everything is here. And of course, subsystems is just a title for a bunch of other metadata objects that are also inside of the library. As you can see, a lot of catalogs are here, a bunch of documents are here, information registers, accumulation registers, all kind of stuff. Everything is here. And this is what I meant when I was talking about the name conflicts. As you can see, there is an accumulation register with a name inventory and with the name sales, which are the names that you would use yourself if you build this application. So this is where the name collisions are coming from. And of course, almost all subsystems have their own interface, user interface. So you can use the forms that are built in. And I just ran this application, which contains only subsystem library and nothing else. And as you can see, there are a lot of forms and the functionality is already here and you can just start using it. And this was the CF file that I uploaded into my application. This is why the data is empty. There is no data, there are no users and so on. All these lists are empty. But the subsystem library distribution package also contains the demo version of subsystem library with some test data already inside, so you can play with the subsystems and some data in them. So this is all I wanted to tell you, and I hope it was helpful.